Welcome to
Welcome to
Ministry
Ministry
Mondays
Mondays
with
with
Meg.
I'm Meg.
Folks, welcome
Welcome
to the show.
If
If
you've never been here
before,
before,
where
where you been?
But we're
But we're
glad
glad
to
to
have
have
you.
you.
So
So
Ministry
Ministry
Mondays
Mondays
is a
is a
place where
place where
we
we
just
just
talk
talk
about
about
all
all
those
those
ministries
ministries
that
that
go
go
on
on
beyond,
like
beyond
beyond
Sunday morning. Sunday morning is
is
worship,
worship,
right?
right?
And
Ministry
ministry
is
is so
so
much
much
more.
more.
And so we
And
just
so we
talk
just talk
about
about
all
all
those
those
things.
things.
Today,
My
my
guest
guest is my
is
new
my new
friend,
friend,
author of Healing
Healing
Pulpit,
Pulpit,
and
and
a
a
very,
very
impressive
impressive
resume
resume that
you
you
gotta
gotta
read
read
in
in
the
the
show notes.
notes.
Reverend
Reverend
Dr. Cedrick
Cedrick
Von
Von
Jackson.
Jackson.
Welcome
Welcome
to the
to the
show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Meg. It's an honor and a pleasure.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that I got to meet you in
in
person.
person.
That was
That
really
was really
cool.
cool.
So would
So
you
would
tell
you tell
everybody
everybody
a
a
little
little bit about
who
who you are,
what you
what
do?
you do?
Sure. Hey, everybody. I am Reverend Dr. Cedrick Von Jackson, affectionately known by my parishioners as Pastor J. I am the senior pastor at the historic West Hunter Street Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia. I am the 20th pastor of West Hunter Street Baptist Church. The 16th pastor was Dr. Martin Luther King's right-hand man, Ralph David Abernathy. And so I literally stand on the shoulders of giants, and I am so honored and privileged to stand in this sacred space. I'm a mental health advocate. I'm a mental health advocate. I'm not a mental health expert. I am not credentialed in psychology or therapy or counseling or anything like that. But I do consider myself to be an advocate. I advocate because I have lived experience with depression and anxiety disorder, and so the work that I do at the intersection of faith and mental health, mental wellness, is born out of that need in my own personal life, to find an outlet. I've heard people say before that sometimes our greatest ministries are born out of our greatest pains. And so for me, I think that statement really rings true. I just a little personal note, I was diagnosed first with anxiety disorder and depression about 14 years ago. I was working a very high stakes, high stress job. At the time, I was bivocational. I've got 27 years experience as an educator in both the public and the private sector. Um, at the time that I received my diagnosis, my first panic attack, I was working at a school where I literally had bitten off more than I could chew, and that was that was the beginning of my mental health journey. Um, like I said, I had my first panic attack, my first anxiety attack because of all of the things, all of the pressures, self pressure from the public, pressure from the school system. Um, it was a school system that had a lot of needs, staffing needs, and things like that. Low performing school, high incidences of disciplinary infractions, fights, low academic performance, all the things. Um, and like I said, it was literally more than I bit off more than I could chew. And yeah, so that's kind of the beginning of my journey with mental illness, depression, and anxiety, and that's why I do the work that I do now. The church, especially in the African American community, but the church has so often been that place where people go to receive the help that they need regardless. And certainly that holds true for the field of mental health, mental illness. But by and large, historically, the church has been pretty unprepared to handle mental health concerns. The church is the first place that people go. Studies have proven that, shown that time and time again. And pastors don't know, churches don't know the appropriate language, the appropriate direction. And again, that's really why it is important for me to say that I'm a mental health advocate and not a mental health professional. I can do pastoral counseling to an extent. And I think I'm good at building those relationships. But as far as diagnoses and things like that, that is so far outside of my wheelhouse. And I know that. And I know the places.
I lost your audio there.
Uh-oh. So yeah, it was a pretty high stress situation. And I after my first attack, I think I kind of recognized it for what it was, and started to go and see a therapist, and got on medication for well, actually for both. I was taking medication for my anxiety and for my depression. At this point, thankfully, I am no longer needing my anxiety meds, but I am still on my antidepressants. And although it's been a few months since I have seen my therapist, I do still have a therapist on standby in the event that I need him or her, him in this case. I have seen both male and female therapists. So yeah, that's been my journey. And like I said, the church is on the forefront of that helping ministry, but so many times the church does not know how to help, and that's the work that I do.
Isn't it something? Stand in the pulpit and say, I'm your pastor, and I have a therapist, and you should have one too.
Right. Yeah, I think that's really powerful, and I'm a social media junkie, and so I post a lot on Facebook. I'm showing my age because that's not the platform that today's young adults use, but I still post a lot on Facebook. And when I started my journey and I was posting about, it was very important for me to be transparent. So when I started my journey, and I was posting a lot about my depression and anxiety on Facebook, I actually had a pastor mentor that contacted me and said, "Hey, you need to stop posting all of that. People do not need to hear, see, read all of that about you. You don't need to give." And this was a mentor, pretty highly recognizable name in the Black church, and I took it with a grain of salt, because again, for me, it was important to show transparency, because I really believe that if pastors and preachers are honest about their real day-to-day struggles, that gives their parishioners permission to be honest about their real day-to-day struggles also. Yeah.
You're talking about earlier about how we're not trained, equipped, hopefully, on mental health professionals. But yeah, the church is the first place you go. I mean, I know that's happened times when I was there. Like, is that what drove you to write this book, or how did that happen?
So yeah, the book was a byproduct. So when I was working on my doctor of ministry, of course, we had to identify a problem, a concern in the church, and develop a project or dissertation to address that issue. And so for me, the subject of mental health, mental wellness, mental illness was the problem. I had experienced personal situations, and I noticed this gap in the work that the church was doing, or not even the gap at the time, just a lack of work that the church was doing. And so that's the topic that I decided to tackle. My doctor of ministry is in homiletics, in the preaching track. And so my whole idea was, how do I address mental illness, mental health in the preaching moment? And then how do we address it better in ministries, throughout the church? And so the title of my DMAN project was Rethinking Mental Health in the African American Church Through Preaching, Teaching, and Hospitality. And so I did a lot of work studying the scholar named Matthew Stanford. He's out of Texas, Baylor. And he wrote this book called Grace for the Afflicted. And it's a really, really powerful book that identifies stories and characters in the Bible, and then talks about their stories, talks about their personalities, and then he lines their stories up next to the DSM-5. The Diagnostic Statistical Manual, 5th version. And he gives diagnoses to biblical characters. And so when you read through the scriptures, you will see biblical characters that suffer from depression and anxiety. You will see people suffering from living with bipolar disorder. You will see descriptors of people that are living with personality disorders and schizophrenia. You will see people living with narcissistic disorders, which also falls on the spectrum under the umbrella of mental illness. And so it's just a rich book that gives you another lens to read scripture through. So a lot of my work was based on his information. I also did a lot of work studying Christine Pohl, who does a lot of work about hospitality in the church. And hospitality is at the core of a mental wellness ministry, that if people don't feel welcome, and if they don't feel that this is a hospitable space, then why would I share my story? Why would I share my truth and my reality if I don't feel safe enough to share it? So I did the dissertation, the DMAN project, and then started thinking about ways, because in the back of my mind, I always wanted to be a published author. I've done a couple of self-published poetry books, but I really, so I really wanted to be a real author. Not that self-published authors are not real, but I wanted that. That was on my bucket list. And so I was blessed with the opportunity to work with a publisher. I don't know if I can mention them here or not, but
yes, you can.
Okay, Judson Press. Yes. So I met Dr. Christine. I met Dr. Rachel Lawrence at one of our denomination's national annual sessions. I think it was in New Orleans, and they were doing a session to attract authors to Judson Press, and I met her, and I kind of sort of pitched the idea of transforming my dissertation into a book, and she expressed interest and encouraged me to submit a formal book proposal, and I did, and and you know, the rest is history. That's how we got here.
And I've read it. And
Thank you.
It's very well done. And I'm not just saying that, but one of the many things in there is one how honest you are about your own struggles. You put it all out there. And then when you get to that where you're offering things like the samples and how to work some of this. I mean, that is incredible help. And that it's not just for the black churches, for any church.
Sure.
And include all God's people. That you've got even gender affirming, which is so important. Yeah.
And so, you know, the original dissertation, I mean, was specifically for the Black church. And when I submitted the proposal, one of the asks from Judson and Rachel Lawrence, and particularly Dr. Hagray, was that, you know, if we were to publish this, we would really want you to broaden your reach. And I mean, because this is not just a Black church issue, this is an issue, period, point blank, period. And so they challenged me to write, and I'm really glad that they did. They challenged me to write for a broader audience. So yeah, we looked at, the book talks about, you know, historically the origins of like the stigma against mental illness in the Black community, among women. We look at some of the struggles and anxieties that our Latinx brothers and sisters experience because of, I mean, we live in a time where government policy exacerbates mental health concerns among certain populations, right? Immigration policy affects mental health concerns among the Latinx community. It's right there. We looked at, I mean, we have a history in this nation of oppressing different people. I mean, and so I couldn't cover everybody. But, you know, looking at what does mental illness look like among American Native, American Indian, American Alaskan Native populations, you know, going all the way back to times in our history, like during the Trail of Tears. And what did that do to those people that experienced that firsthand? But then what does it look like in 2026 for that trauma to be passed down from generation to generation, because it's still there. And so, yeah, so it was, I readily accepted the challenge. I was glad that Dr. Rachel and Dr. Hagray challenged me to expand my scope and write for a larger audience. And again, including the LGBTQI plus community, because there's stigma, there's oppression, there's suicide, there is violence against that community, and just the way that we oppress different people on all levels has an effect on our mental well-being.
Do you think part of the that pastors struggle is I mean do they talk it up to fear or they just don't feel like they're qualified. What do you think? Like, I don't know. You go into depth, but like if you could talk
So,
about a little bit.
I think there's a little bit of fear, but I also think there is, from a church standpoint, I think there is almost an over reliance on faith. You hear, and I brought out some of these things in the book, but you literally hear people say, well, the reason you're anxious, the reason you're so nervous and worried about things is because you don't have enough faith. And we're just going to pray about this, and we're going to pray it away. And so I think it's an over reliance on our faith. I think it's also this tendency historically to over spiritualize our mental health concerns, right? We lean heavily into, oh, that's demonic possession, or that's, those things, that's a spirit that's on you, and we need to pray against that spirit. Like there's a case in the book, particularly from a female perspective, and you look at the history of mental illness and hysteria in women, and how that terminology was passed on, and you go all the way back to like the Salem witch trials. There were ladies who were there were women who were experiencing mental health challenges, and they said, well, that's hysteria, and it's demonic, and so you get the Salem witch trials, because we're going to cast these demons out of these women, and all these women lost their lives when what they were really experiencing was depression or anxiety. And so, I think we over spiritualize it. We're going to pray it away. It's demonic possession. You don't really need to go see a therapist. You don't really need to take that medication. It's a lack of faith.
And that statistic you have there about people in the church saying that the personal like 63.5% of people said yes. Someone had said that. Or demonic involvement.
Right.
65.9. I mean,
and again, I think that so I think a lot of that is based on our inaccurate translation and understanding of Scripture, right? So, like, what is it in John chapter 9? There's this man that Jesus heals, who's blind, and when he's brought to Jesus, people are asking, who sinned for this man to be born in this condition, right? So, and Jesus says, well, did his mother sin, or did his parents sin, or did he sin? And Jesus is like, well, nobody. This was done, so that the glory of God might be shown among the people. But there's this belief that there's this thought that if you're suffering, then somehow that's your fault. And that same mentality creeps its way into the mental health conversation, that if you're depressed, what did you do? If you're anxious, what did you do? How is this your fault? What's your role in this? And we end up, again, creating spaces that are inhospitable because of our faulty understanding of Scripture.
As somebody saying, you imagine it being life-giving to sit there and have someone this is not cool. You didn't cause this. You are love. Period.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure I would sit there and weep as a person who needed to hear.
Yeah. And I think that's why, again, it's so important, like looking at and being able to identify mental health concerns among biblical characters or in their stories, because you get to see them, you get to see this person from a human, flawed perspective. But the good news in the story is that as human and as flawed and as broken and as hurt as they may be, God still used them for God's glory. And so, the David, so like in the Psalms, Psalm 22, and Psalm 22 is one of the sermons, is the scripture, one of the sermons in the back is written on. David, is a foreshadowing of Jesus on the cross, where David is the one who originally says, my God, why have you forsaken me? That's a moment of dealing with depressing and depressive thoughts. And to see David in that light and know and understand that, there are plenty of scriptures that point to the fact that David was probably wrestling with depression at various points in his life. And David was still a man after God's own heart. And David was still one of, if not the greatest king of Israel. That gives us hope that if I am living with a mental health concern, that doesn't have to be the totality of my story. That doesn't have to be my end. And I may have to live with this for the rest of my life. I may have to live with this condition, with this concern for the rest of my life, but God's grace still allows me to be used by God for the glory of God. I mean, I'm like the Apostle Paul. I prayed that God would remove this from me at least 3 times. But God says, and yet my grace is sufficient.
Mm-hmm. What did you learn about in this process? In this writing process?
That I could do it.
Yeah, that's right.
That I could do it. That was it was. I put myself so next month will be 1 year since I finished the manuscript.
Okay.
And I took August off. Well, August is my sabbatical month anyway. But I took my sabbatical month, and I was writing during August, even though I was off, I was writing during the month of August 5-6 hours a day. Writing and researching and revising and finding out, so expanding. And so what the first thing that I learned was that I can do it. I had always, again, wanted to write a book. I always wanted to be an author, and this has shown me that I can do it if I set my mind to it. Another thing that I learned, I think, was again, the importance of being transparent about my own story. When the story that I shared in Cleveland at the Storytellers at Space for Grace, that was a version of that one of the first stories in the book. And when I wrote the story down and I let my wife read it, that opened her eyes to a lot. And she was right there alongside me when I was going through, the initial struggle, and has always been there. But opening that story really cause her pause, you know. And so I learned that I can celebrate because I've been through a lot and come out on the other side, not unscathed, not without scars, but I've come out on the other side, and I'm still here, and I can tell the story, and I can point people in the direction that they can receive help and hope. So yeah, I think those are two major things. That
I once heard somebody say that I believe that we preach from our scars, but we should never preach from our wounds.
Yeah. Scars prove that healing has taken place. I was hurt, I was wounded, but I healed from it, and here's the scar to prove it. Yeah. If I'm wounded, I'm still bleeding, and if I'm wounded, I'm still bleeding. It's still tender. It's still sore, and I may not be yet ready to tell that story, to share that part. But scars are proof that, yeah, I was hurt, but I'm still here and I've healed.
Because the last thing we do is like wound other people in our own woundedness.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that happens. That happens so often that a lot of the, quite honestly, you hear preaching sometimes that is full of vitriol, full of hatred, and a lot of that preaching comes from a space where I haven't yet healed. I'm still mad. I'm still hurt. Yeah. And it can be pointed, and it can be aimed at anybody.
Yeah.
I was hurt by a woman, and so now I'm coming across in my preaching as abusive and oppressive of women. So yeah.
And it's such an honor to stand there in that pulpit. That you don't want to mess with. I mean,
right.
That and I don't know. Maybe playing a little bit here, maybe that some of the reasons like I don't want to go there. My own history, my own wound.
Yeah.
I don't want to hurt somebody else.
Right.
Yeah.
Not if you take the call seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are a healing profession.
So I really do and sticky notes, folks. Notes. Get the book. I'm also gonna put in the show notes those other books that you referenced. The Matthew Stanford. That sounds like
it really is. I am blown away by his work. Yeah.
Okay. And to think that informs your preaching, right? Because you might notice that as your expert kind of
right.
stuff.
Yeah. It's hard for me now to look at any text, and not even if the sermon is not about mental health, mental illness, it's hard for me to look at any text now and not see some tie-in to mental health.
So what comes next?
Say again.
What's next? Another book?
Oh, another book at some point. I don't think the next book. So I kind of think I think of the Healing Pulpit as kind of clinical, kind of how to, because I talk a lot about. There's a chapter on establishing your own mental health ministry at your particular church, and so there's a clinical nature, a how to nature to the book. So the next book I don't think is going to be any of or as much of either of those things. Not so much a devotional. I'm thinking about writing liturgy around mental health for the church. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning and turning over in my head right now. Calls to worship, prayers for the people, collects, that are all centered around mental wellness.
Yeah. Not that I'm my opinion matters.
No, I mean, and actually, you could. I mean, I've heard your liturgy as well, so that's something that you would. I think, yeah.
And really, this book could be for anybody in the church, just your clergy person.
Right.
I mean, and I think it's easy to understand it. And lay leaders, seminary students, really anybody. Yeah. Pick this up and go. Oh, okay. This makes sense. And here, it doesn't just with. Here are things that you should like. We've got examples
right.
How this might look, and so I really think it's important.
Yeah.
Important.
Call to worships, litanies. I mean, just the whole gamut.
Yeah.
And then you could use it as devotional as well.
So folks, pick up the links. That's friends and other places. So the joy question. Think about all you do. What brings you joy?
Don't move.
Oh. I'm excited for this.
That's what brings me joy. This is my first grandchild. This is Lyric Patrice K. Wilson. She is 3 months old. She was born March 12th. And that's what brings me joy. Anytime people say, "How's that grandbaby?" Big old smile. Big old smile. And and yesterday, our daughter sent us a picture of her doing tummy time, and just, yeah, that's what brings me joy. So and then I'm proud of my kids, my daughter and her husband. They are great mommy and daddy. Not only did we get a picture yesterday, but we also got a video. And the baby was, she rolled over from stomach to back for the first time yesterday. And I mean, and she was crying and struggling with it and just really getting frustrated. And then she got it. And to hear my daughter encouraging her to do it and reassuring her that it was okay and letting her figure it out, letting her work it out and encouraging her and reminding her that it's okay. And then when she finally got turned over, to hear my daughter, her expression of joy. Yeah. So that's what brings me joy. I'm holding her and thinking, wow, if I had this to do all over again, I kind of know what I'm doing now. And it would be, not that the first, not that it was bad, not that I was a bad parent, but it's just like, yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
My kids are older now. And, mostly adults. And you kind of go, oh. Yeah. I'm so grateful for you and this ministry and your willingness to be so vulnerable. I mean, to go. Yes, I had a plan, which is scary to say out loud.
Yeah,
and it's scary to read. I mean, to go. Like this is where you were, and then where you are now, and giving this to so many people.
Yeah.
So I really am grateful for you.
Thank you. I'm grateful for you as well.
So folks, go out there, book. Follow him on social media so you can see the branding. And follow us and catch all the updates. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.